credit unions obviously uh, have a lot of different functions, but many of those functions have changed due to COVID. Maybe we could go through some of the, things that have changed and things that have become more of an issue for credit unions.
Uh, would you guys maybe just hit list this real quick? Talk, just briefly about what each one is and kind of what you're dealing with as you move into normalization and um, going forward.
You want to start, Darci?
Sure. So I'll just kind of go through the list first. Deposit operations, that is, and I know all of us as credit unions, because we've had the CEO calls, we've all been talking about it, is managing all of the deposits that we have received in. Any time of turbulence, basically members, they kind of hunker down and they want their money to be safe. So I know for us here personally, we have a lot of liquidity, and that's something that we're managing. We have lots of deposits that have come into the credit union. Fraud prevention, there is a ton of fraud right now as well, which is always scary during these time frames. But anytime that there's stimulus money to be had, the fraudsters are on top of it, and they always seem to be like they're one step ahead, which is unfortunate. And then
just another note on that too is that seems to be across lots of industries. The number of electronic attacks, cyber attacks, phishing, faking. We've had a situation where somebody's contacted us and engaged in our sales process and said they were deaf, and working through that process, and then you get through it and you find out, okay, they want connections to set up their account, and it's universal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. And it's always something like we should know, but you just don't ever know. That's the other thing too. And especially with the stimulus checks and everything that's been coming in, that's all brand new. So we don't know which avenue they're going to try to hit. So that's been a big one right now. Regulations and compliance, that's another thing. I will say NCUA, I think they've been very, very helpful through this. They have really backed off on a lot of regulation, which is not always typical, again, during a time frame like this, but they've been very helpful. They've been very understanding. They've said work with your membership, which has been fantastic, to where we can give longer modifications for members as long as we're documenting it. They're saying help your member, don't worry about running it as a troubled debt restructure, which is huge for all of us because there's so much compliance that goes into it. A lot of the regulation
kind of a mental shift was that a mental shift for you and your members?
Yes.
I can imagine being in a regulated world where you're constantly told you need to do it this way. How was your staff kind of changed through that?
Well, I think that's the thing that's funny about it, because we all talk about it and we're like, can we get that in writing, please? Because we've all lived through the recession, and they will say, oh no, do this now. But then, we might see them in a year and get written up for these same things that they said was okay. So I think all of us are a little bit, leery of that loosening regulation because we haven't had it.
Right.
So, but they have been, and I hope that's the case. I hope when we start to see them, when they come in to do our exams, that's being accurate. And so we'll see. But thus far, they're telling us, don't worry about it, just work with your members, which has been very good.
Well, I can tell you that they are not saying that to the IT people. They're not saying lean off. We were critical infrastructure, are critical infrastructure workers, and definitely the regulators have not been saying, you know what, just take a break on that firewall for a while. That's not happening.
Well, that's probably good. I'm glad they're not telling you to take a break.
Yeah, I'm not sending the same message to my staff. Just take care of people.
Yeah, exactly. Branch and online services, that is something that's been, I think, really good. I know for us, when I was looking at our numbers, we only had about 20% of our membership who was using all of our online services, which is a horrible, horrible number. So I think that COVID for us, a little bit, if you're going to take away a positive from it, was that you know, we did close our lobbies and our members did have to use alternate means. And I'm hoping that after they tried, you know, online banking, or they tried remote deposit capture, or they tried our mobile app, that that is something that they'll still use in the future and won't just come back to the lobbies.
Well, I
Staff,
would assume that after they've used it and seen that it's a little easier than they thought, that they're going to utilize it.
I agree. I agree. I'm always shocked. You know, we have members who call every single day, what's my balance? And that's it. That's all they want to know is what their balance is. But they might call 3 times a day to know what their balance is. And I'm always shocked that they just did. I always remind them if I answer the phone, you know, we have a wonderful mobile app and you can
I was going to
track your
say,
money. But
I bet your app usage is way up.
Well,
yeah,
one of
Remotely.
the
and I haven't checked numbers on that to see where we're at, but I hope so too. And from the, again, now that we've opened our doors and we haven't had as much traffic in, I am assuming that they are using those other means, because we were not, you know, there was not a big, huge amount of members in the office. So
we're,
staff,
The
we're a
apps are
part of
great.
a number
mhm,
of technology association groups, and kind of the theme that's been going on through those is um, we've moved into a new era in our industry where now basically they're calling it the dependence era. Because the rate of adoption has picked up on technology in so many different industries so quickly in the last 60 days, you know, that it's like, okay, you know, this is not going to go back the other way. And we really need to continue to build infrastructure, you know, that
right,
can achieve the highest level, you know, because people are just going to continue to depend on it more. Would you say that's fair?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
Well, the
Scott, what
other
Um,
about
thing,
staff?
I was just going to say, obviously, staff's an issue with everybody. You want staff to
yeah,
feel safe, and also the
yes.
people that come in, you want them to feel safe. So,
Mhm.
maybe speak a little bit on that.
Well, and that is, you know, that's always the big concern, and that was, of course, a big concern when we reopened our lobbies. When we closed our lobbies, I think I'm also maybe one of the only credit unions. Most of our staff stayed here. I had a couple of people work remotely during the COVID, where we had, you know, but usually it was typically 1 to 2 people out of the office, and that was it. Almost everybody else was here. And it was always, you know, a huge concern, and you have to have all of those conversations with your staff of, you know, I love you guys, you have to be safe. You know, I love you guys, you can't travel. I love you guys, if you do travel, you have to quarantine for 14 days when you get back, and you
Yes.
have to be honest with me. I mean, I love you guys, you have to start filling out a health screening questionnaire to make sure that you're feeling okay, and I'm going to take your temperature every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for them, it's been a huge learning curve too, you know, where it's not just you're coming to work and you have to be thinking about everybody else that you're
Others.
around. And that's a
Well,
huge shift. And then also on the flip side of that, they also have to feel comfortable telling our members if they come in and they're visibly ill that they can't be here. They have to leave. We will not give any services. We're really sorry, but they can't come in here. I was talking to one of my employees the other day, and she was telling me she had someone in her office who was sniffling and coughing, and I'm like, did you tell them to leave? And she said, no. And I said, you have to. They can't be here. But it's such a shift to everything we've ever done that it's hard to remember that we should be doing those things.
Right.
and I think there's an employer mentality, or I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as it you've got to switch it, where instead of
Yes,
feeling like you're letting your employer down by not coming in sick, you're actually doing them a favor.
exactly. One of our staff came in yesterday, and she was ill. She was throwing up, and she came in with her mask on and said, well, it's not on the symptom list. You know, I'm not coughing. I don't have a
Yeah,
fever.
we're going to ask you to go.
Yeah.
That would be any time I wouldn't ask you to stay. So
Well, and there's
it's a
just some of
shift.
that with
And
that Montana mentality too
It
of,
yes,
really
you know, you
is.
got a job to do, you do it.
You're
Um,
not sick
exactly.
unless
it's
you're
definitely a fine
in the
line.
hospital.
Yeah,
Well, and we can't
I
forget
know.
on the staff side of things that there's a lot of staff across the state who were home trying to help their kids with school
Yes.
Hmm.
while
Yeah.
trying to do their jobs, you know, so there was a lot of interruption with childcare and school facilities that's impacting credit union employees too.
Right.
Yes. I have a couple of employees who are still, they're not home full time, but they're taking time every day to stay home to homeschool their kids.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is became a huge issue for a lot of people, and many employers have had to become flexible with that. So
And that hasn't normalized yet. What about call
no,
center?
yeah, I would imagine call centers our usage is way up
Mm-hmm.
due to
And we
questions.
never had a call center prior to this, but we implemented a call center to assist. And typically they're really in the background for us personally. I'm sure everybody else is a little bit different. We have them kind of in the background if something did happen, you know, if I do have staff, if somebody did get ill here and, you know, and passed around the office and we were out of the office, call center can pick up and take over. And the same thing, you know, if again for disaster recovery, they're just kind of in the background waiting for that.
Okay.
I think the commercial and consumer I think that was just, those are
Well,
just
my
things that we've
question
helped with.
on there,
Go
Darcy,
ahead.
is, you know, with
Yeah.
your business side of things and your business customers, you know, obviously you've had
Mhm.
to answer lots of questions, you know, for them on that standpoint. And
Mhm.
usually with, you know, that relationship, that's a very face-to-face, you know, personal type of thing. So I imagine there's
Mhm.
been changes there. And then same thing on the consumers. You know, probably a little bit of pullback in terms of borrowing and that kind of stuff
Mhm.
right now. You
Yes.
know, and same thing. It's like you get to know, you know, your credit union members and
Mhm.
that relationship, and that's what you're used to. But you know, any flexing you've had to do on those two fronts?
We've done quite a few loan modifications for both. Commercial, not so much. We most of our commercial members that I've talked to, most of them seem to be weathering it pretty well, which is good because I know that they've all been hit directly. But I've been having ongoing conversations with them, you know, and it's more like, call me next month. Let me know how things are going next
Right,
month. If we need to do
right.
Yeah.
something, then we sure can. But let's, you know, they're kind of in the same ballpark. They're like, let's just get through the next 30 days and see what's
Yeah,
going to
30
happen.
days at a time.
Mhm.
Yep, that's pretty
Yes.
Okay.
common right now.
And I think the same with consumer too. We are going to run a summer loan promotion, which I really kind of went back and forth on if I should do it. but but people still need to buy cars. People, I'm sure at this time, are also thinking about RVs because they might want to be out camping. So I did decide to continue with the summer loan promotion, and I'm not expecting to have used the normal amount of people in for loans, but I am still running it because we do need to do some loans, and you know, our liquidity is very high. We have a lot going out in investments, but I would like to try to get as much out in loans as possible this
Well,
summer.
just
So.
a quick update for your members on that. We do a number of different recreational dealerships, you know,
Mhm.
motorcycles, RVs, campers, boats across the state. And
Mhm.
there's literally concern right now that they're going to run out of inventory. Um,
Wow,
so it's
that's
not a
good. Then
bad
I'm glad
time
I'm
to
doing a
be
summer loan promotion, Connor.
in the freedom business.
Yeah.
You know, there was a
Seek higher
report.
ground.
There was a report in the Wall Street Journal, and then I heard from a friend too that wanted to buy a bike for his wife, and he had to go to Bozeman to find a bike
Wow.
because Missoula, you know, was sold out. And then the Wall
Wow.
Street Journal the next day said basically bike, you know, just pedal bikes. There's no inventory anymore. Like it
Wow.
has sold that fast. So I think there's going to be a fair amount of demand here in the short term, and we all know how short Montana summers are too.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, to buy some freedom.
And Danya, do you? I mean, we don't need to obviously go over things, but do you see anything you needed to add to any of this that you're seeing
I'll just
on
touch on a
overall in the
couple of
industry?
them. You know, I think this last 10 weeks has been nothing if not information overload. You know, Darcy mentioned NCUA, who's our federal regulator, and they insure most of our state charter credit unions too. They've been great, and we've had all of these industries that have been doing a really wonderful job, but everything they do is emails. And so you get an email and then it's like, okay, you can do this now. And now we've made a change to this and we've added flexibility here. So we've all been drinking from this information fire hose. And so one of the things I've been spending a lot of time doing is trying to synthesize some of that information to a website and then steer people to the website. And with our association, we've actually added an additional newsletter every week because there's so much information. But we've also pulled back on, I would say, regular communication, and we're trying to really help people focus on just things that are COVID related. But there's been a lot of training information available for staff, so people that were working from home could do webinars that a lot of our partners were providing. And I think that they've found a lot of value in that, but I do think that there'll be some shift back to normalization. But I feel bad for people like Darci because honestly their inboxes are so full every day.